this video, I explain how a CIO can implement IT governance at a company. First, let me explain why we would like to answer this question. In Chapter 9, you learn that Jim Barton, the new CIO, requires a new governance model. He would like to involve the board and senior management teams in IT decision making. Especially, he wants them to do the trade-off between cost and opportunities, between risks and gains. Uh, he doesn't want only his neck in the news. He wants the IT management, the business management team's neck in the news, so that when things go awry, uh, everyone will be blamed, not just him. So he requires to implement a new IT governance model at IBK. He wants boards and senior management to be involved in decision making. I would like to help him with a proper way that this can be done. But what is IT governance? IT governance is the way an organization control IT decision making, especially decisions related to investments. It explains how an organization specified responsibilities for each stage of decision making. It explains how an organization allocates decision rights, how an organization establishes the accountability framework for information technology. Uh, so the main goal of IT governance is to achieve IT business alignment. Uh, in the literature, it's also explained that the goal is the formulation of IT strategy, which is in a way related to achieving IT business alignment, and also controlling the implementation of IT strategy. You need to know that there are various definitions of IT governance and various goals are mentioned for IT governance in the literature. So expect to see differences in these definitions and goals. But generally, IT governance is about specifying two main things about IT decisions. First, who makes the decisions, who has the right to make the decision, what is the decision structure, and second, the process for this decision making, who is involved in each stage of this decision making. Of course, you can have different IT decision types, and you can choose different decision makers and processes for each decision type. But keep that in mind that these dimensions of IT governance are growing. There are different researchers that or companies who suggest new dimensions to be added. First, I would like to give you a structural view of IT governance. Uh, but that I mean IT governance archetypes and the IT governance matrix. Here, we would like to know who makes most IT decisions. For that, you need to know the hierarchy in a corporation, such as Samsung. Samsung has, a corporation level, several corporation managers, and in that level, we can have a central IT department who reports to the corporation. But Samsung can have several strategic business units as well, or line of business as well, like Samsung Mobile, Samsung House appliances, uh, house fridges, for example, and so on and so forth. So there are different strategic business units, and each of these um, strategic business units, line of businesses can have their own IT departments as well. We call them local IT. So, in the centralized version, most of the IT decisions are made either by corporation managers or the CIO who controls the central IT. In the decentralized IT governance type, most of the decisions are made by the local managers, either the local IT, the local CIO, the local IT department manager or the manager of the team of managers of strategic business units. In the third type of IT governance called federation, some decisions are made at the corporation level and some are made at the local level. In the centralized IT governance type, where corporation controls highest priorities, you can see advantages such as economy of scale, which means that because you as the entire corporation tries to um, get a hold of an IT resource, then it would be easier for you to do that with lower cost. And even when you, for example, get the license for Microsoft Windows, then the entire uh, strategic business units in the corporation, all these SBUs can use that. So the cost would go down. Moreover, if you just, for example, you want to have a new human resource computer system, then you just define that project once, and then uh, that system can be given to all other, all the strategic business units. And because of that, there will be no repetitive projects. You're not, Samsung Mobile is not going to create its own uh, human resource management system, and Samsung household appliances is not going to reinvent the wheel and create another human resource management system itself. So you can manage costs way better. You have a higher bargaining power. You can also control the IT standards. You can place one IT standards for the entire corporation. For example, you would say that, okay, all strategic business units needs to have they all need to use one database management system, which is Oracle, which makes it way easier to integrate the data from various databases in different strategic business units. On, on the downside, uh, uh, we can see that a centralized IT governance model is not responsive to change, because most of the time changes are realized by business units way faster than the central corporation. Uh, and another downside is that now, because the cost of IT is uh, is paid by the central IT central corporation, business units don't feel accountable for the cost. As for the decentralized IT governance model, uh, where business units control IS priorities, we see an excessive overall cost. We see reinvention of wheels. There will be many projects that would try to create the same type of uh, IT. They would try to create the same type of system. They would try to uh, acquire the same type of IT resources. And we also see variable IT standards. One SBU will use Microsoft Windows, the other SBU will use Linux as the operating systems. One uses Microsoft SQL Server as for the database, the other one uses MySQL. So different databases, different operating systems, different infrastructure means that you cannot integrate um, the data easily. To use that to create better strategies, to have a comprehensive view of your customers if they are shared between the two SBUs. The advantages of decentralized system is that they are quite responsive to business needs. Again, because uh, business units can track changes way faster than the central corporation. And Because they pay for the projects, they feel more accountable for IT costs. So as a result, the IT cost at one SBU can uh, go down, or the projects can be more productive. Note that uh, at the moment, uh, both uh, both Maggie and Barton believe that the IT governance at IBK is decentralized. They want to go for a more centralized version of IT governance, but they differ, in who in the central corporation, who at the top of the hierarchy has to make decisions. To learn the differences between the suggested IT governance model by Maggie and Jim Barton, uh, you need to know various IT governance archetypes. The first archetype is business monarchy, where a senior business executive or a group of senior executives, sometimes including the CIO, they make the decision about information technology of the entire corporation. With IT monarchy, an individual IT executive or a group of IT executives make decision about the entire corporation. In the feudal system, business units or process leaders make separate decisions on the basis of the unit or process's needs. In the anarchy model, each individual user or a small group of users pursue his, her, or their own IT agenda. In the federal system, the chief executives and business representatives of all the SBUs, all the line of businesses, collaborate with the IT department at the central level to make decision about IT. So some decisions are made at by some of these groups and some are made by others, but generally they make this decision in a federal way. So a federal system is very much similar to the equivalent of central government and the states in the United States, where each of them have their domain of things that they can make decision about. With IT duopoly, we have a two-party decision-making approach that involves IT executives as well as a group of business leaders representing each strategic business units. So the two together make the two parties make decision. So currently, IBK has a feudal system. That means business units, they make decision about IT. They pay for IT and they do everything on their own. Barton wants IT monarchy. He wants to have a full control of IT budgets and all IT decision making, at least for a year. Maggie, his partner and also a business consultant, suggests something close to business monarchy, where a committee of business managers, top managers, make that decision. You can stop here for a minute to study these various IT governance archetypes yourself and contemplate on them. Note that these governance archetypes, these decision-making structures, can vary from one IT decision domain to another decision domain. For example, in one organization, IT principles and IT investment prioritization can follow the business monarchy archetype, where the top business executives make decision about this domain. How about, however, as for IT architecture and IT infrastructure decisions, the organization follows IT monarchy, where the top IT executives, the CIO, make decision about these two. And at the same time, when it comes to finding or choosing the right business application portfolio, choosing what business applications to be added in the next 5 years, then the organization can go for IT duopoly, where a combination of IT executives and the business line managers make decision about those applications that they need. So if you use IT decisions and governance archetypes to create a matrix that juxtaposes the 5 IT decision areas against the 6 archetypal approaches, then you have an artifact that is called IT governance matrix, which shows clearly how decisions are made in an organization. It shows a full picture of the decisions that are made in the organization and who are in charge of making those decisions. So far, we have learned about a structural view of IT governance. Now, I would like to add the process view so that we can have an even more comprehensive understanding of IT governance in an organization. The first approach is to add, a two-step decision-making process to the IT governance matrix. Uh, while making decision, you try to get inputs from various sources and then you make a final decision. So we add this input and decision to each decision domain, and we need to make, in an organization to have a full understanding of their IT governance model. We need to specify who provides input and who provides decision. For example, regarding IT principles, these high-level decisions about IT, most organizations, they get input from following a federal archetype, which means inputs are created by a team of top executives, IT executives, and business unit managers. However, the final decision about IT principles is made following IT duopoly, which means the combination of IT executives and business uh, unit managers make the final decision about IT principles. So again, adding the two-step process to the IT governance matrix gives us a more comprehensive understanding of IT governance in an organization. Note that you do not need to follow these general IT governance matrix. You can develop the and customize the IT governance matrix that would be useful for you. For example, rather than the two-step input decision making process, you can go for a three-step decision making process where you have 3 steps of initiation, proposal development, and proposal approval. You can categorize decisions to very important high investment decision and low investment decision. You can also use the different stakeholders in your organization. For example, a hospital has a top management team, IT professionals, local administrators, and professional users. And they may, allow those professional users to uh, do some part of the decision making. And of course, in this model, you can, for example, choose that each pass represent a decision domain. For example, in the high IT investment level here, you can see that the decisions related to IT principles are made, are initiated by the top management team. The proposal is developed by the top management team and is approved by the top management team. However, decisions related to IT investment prioritization starts initiated at the top management team, but then the IT professionals will create the proposal, and then the approval of those prioritization of IT investment is done by the top management team. So here are my recommendations to Jim Barton. First, I suggest he avoids going for only one archetype for all investment decisions. And I believe that he needs to customize the IT governance metrics for IVK. Uh, he needs to create a list of major IT decisions important to IVK and then create a list of decision makers as well as stakeholders. And then for each investment type, uh, Jim Barton can create one matrix and then specify who should provide the input and who should make the final decision. Or he can go for the three-step process for decision making if he wants to. Pause here for a minute and try to answer this question. And this question about IT governance archetype. And finally, this question about IT decision domains. In the next video, I explain a proper way to involve a board member in IT decision making.